I guess Arlene Owens, that's
He's coming up.
Okay. Arlene, nice to see you. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So we'll open up the meeting right now. We'll start with conversations with Putnam County GIS Officer Arlene Owens. So did the board members get to take a look at the draft that Arlene prepared?
Yes.
Okay. I guess, I took a look at it and it looks pretty good. There are a couple of things which we need to work out because there are some things which are inconsistent from with what our original map was, but that I think most of the differences are really things that have changed as far as the tax lots and and in fact should be changed. But there are some a couple of other things, and I think I'm speaking for the other board members that I don't think that we've had a chance to sort of go through and sort of do a very close comparison.
Okay.
There are, I guess, Arlene, let me ask you this. There are some discrepancies between what was on Beatty Watson and yours. Is the assignment of whether something was in the National Register or in the state and local district, was that something that was based on the Dr. Fitch report that I sent?
No, this was off the Beatty and Watson map.
Okay. All right. So as far as board members, we are going to wind up having to, or we should do a comparison to make sure that we're in agreement with everything that is on the map currently. I know there was Sean and I had some email discussions about whether or not to include on the map the tax ID numbers. And I think that the point that Sean was making at the time is that there are a lot of lots, parcels, which it would be very hard to get that information in there because of the size of the parcel.
Right.
And I'm not totally sure that, it's all that critical. I think one of the things that we were talking about, and it was already pretty much started, is having a table which has the tax lot number and the address, and I think that as appendix or something which is part of the document, I think would be fine. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, right. So what we were wondering is, would it be possible to have our map only include the street addresses for each parcel instead of the tax ID number?
Yeah.
And then so people will refer, because everyone knows their address, nobody knows their tax ID number. So then they'll refer backwards to the table to get that information. But if that's just a click of a button or type of thing, then that would be preferable.
Yeah, it's doable.
Well, currently, at least the one that I saw, it doesn't. All it has is the large segments. Each individual parcel is not identified with a tax number, tax ID number. Is that correct?
I think it's a matter of seeing, kind of working your way. Each lot is identified with only the last couple of digits. Is that right, Arlene? And then you.
Right.
And that's what those orange and green boundaries are?
Yeah, the block lines and the section lines. That's
Right.
the way the Beatty and Watson map did it, so I did it that way.
Yeah,
I don't usually do maps that way.
All right.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think that's going to be a little too confusing for people. For the people who are using this map for the purposes of this board, if we can keep it limited to the addresses, it's going to be much easier for people to identify their houses.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody, so as far as a decision and direction for Arlene, we will ask that you remove the tax ID numbers wherever they appear.
Right.
There are, like I said, there are a couple of other inconsistencies that we're going to need to go through it, and I would say. Within about 2 weeks, I should be able to get some information. And what I'll do is I'll take the lead on that. And since everybody else has got other little tasks to take care of. So if there are any things that you want to see on the map, if you could send it to me and I'll pass it on to Arlene. The other thing, which the sort of the last piece of information that I sent to you was the map that was used as part of the creation of the district.
Right.
All right. Now that was given to me by Glenn Watson, and his wife was one of the people who set up the historic district to begin with. So as you can see, it's kind of on the rough side. So I don't know how much other information it would give us. I guess the advantage of Dr. Fitch's report is that they go specifically by address. So, that would be one thing that we'll have to compare and see, make sure that everything that was identified in Dr. Fitch's report is in fact, identified. Now, let me just throw out to the other board members the significance of differentiating between National Register and local district. How important do we feel that is? Sean, I'll start with you.
I think it's important that we continue to have some sort of a distinction, because there are grant opportunities for people, who are actually in the national district that people in the local district wouldn't qualify for. I know that the big sort of statewide thing doesn't apply to any of them because our census tract is too high, but there are probably other other foundational grants and things like that. So it's not a distinction that we make going forward in how we review applications, but as a resource for people living within the district, we should keep that distinction in it.
Okay,
yeah,
and could you speak up, Todd?
Oh, I was just sorry. I just said I agree with what Sean said. I think it's important to have that, even though it doesn't necessarily impact really what we're doing, but more for members of the village and the community.
Okay, Andrea?
Yeah, I agree too. And, in addition to that, I know that in the future, we're talking about maybe submitting applications for, landmark status, maybe a future project. I think that it would be helpful to have that information for the national district on the map for that reason too.
Okay. So I guess, are there any things that we want to point out to Arlene at this particular time? aside from what's already been described.
I have nothing to add.
It looks really good. Thank
I
you
do
for
have a
doing it so
question.
quickly.
The Beatty and Watson map included the streets. I didn't in this, just for us, you know, while we're working. In the end, do you want the streets highlighted in color as well?
I guess, why don't you send me a sample area just to see how it would look. I don't know if it would add to the ease of use of the map or not. So
it just makes the lines look longer and straighter. That's all.
Anybody have any particular preference at this particular time?
Are you just saying to highlight the street names or to remove them entirely?
No, like right now, the map is just a bunch of polygons of parcels.
Yeah.
The Beatty and Watson map are 2 polygons. So they go straight from one parcel across the road. You know what I'm saying? So they include the road, even though it's not really part of the district, but just to make it a nice even polygon, they've included it. So it's really a preference whether you want it that way or this way.
In other words, you're talking about making the streets and roadways
part of the lot.
Some other color other than the blue and the yellow. Is that what you're saying?
No, the Beatty and Watson map has the roads are the same color as I'll make another one and I'll send it to show you the difference.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
That's probably the simplest way.
Yeah.
Visual. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Beatty and Watson map now, and I agree. It's the way that they have it drawn. It looks much clearer because it really separates the 2 districts from the part of the village that isn't designated. So I would say if you could color in the streets to match, it makes it easier to read.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Anything else for Arlene before we allow her to leave? Thank you very much, Arlene. Like I said, we were all very impressed with how quickly you were able to generate the map. So thank you very much. And we'll take a closer look at the 2 and we'll get back to you with questions and comments. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. With that, let's go to first order of business, 4151 Chestnut Street. So, Alex.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening, yes.
All right. So, has everybody had time to look at what Alex had submitted?
Yes.
Okay. I have a little bit of a question. I mean, I compared version 5 with version 6, and I saw only one thing which was different, and that has to do with the lights that you're proposing for the fascia of the parapet, or the face of the parapet.
Yeah, so there should be 2 things different design-wise. One is the pole is now a single-headed pole instead of a double-headed pole. This is due to some conversations the planning board and our legal team have had just about the state statutes and what's required light level-wise. And we're also able to remove one of the wall lights that were originally on the facade and parapet. So it was no longer needed. So right now on the facade, there is only one wall light, and that is located underneath the signage. And I can share my screen just so we can all see.
Yeah, or why don't you do that? Because
let me know if you see my screen.
Yep.
I see it.
Okay. So before version 5, this pole right here, one was in the middle of a parking spot and in the middle of the property line. It's been moved in between the parking spaces, and it's been changed to a single-headed pole. The other changes, there used to be another wall light on top of the Food Town building over here. We're able to remove that light completely and only keep this SN1. This was originally on top of the parapet, and we're able to move it underneath the signage so the light wouldn't spill on top of the signs as well.
All right. Can we go through the various images that you had
Yes.
in version 6?
So this is just,
all right,
the exact dimensions and heights are going to be on the plans, but this is just an indication of where the light fixture is going to be going.
So that's the only one on the parapet, or?
Correct. That's the only thing that's going to be on anything above the soffit, the canopy.
All right. Well, let's go through each of the lights and through
Yep.
where they're located.
We can start at the very beginning.
Yep.
So this is just showing that the pole, this is the brand new pole. It's going to be going right here in between the parking spaces. It was originally a double-headed pole, but now it's a single-headed pole.
Okay. And am I correct that we have a cut of the pole in your last week, or the last time that we met?
Correct.
You had submitted something. Okay.
Yeah, the pole base detail, that's all stay the same, just the amount of heads on the pole changed.
Right. Okay.
The height's the same, everything else. This is just showing what we're doing underneath the canopy. There are 4 fixtures that we are replacing with an LED version. There's one up here that we didn't have a good picture of, so I kind of I threw it off the camera. This is a fixture in the very back of the building. We are replacing what is existing there with a full cutoff fixture.
Okay.
These are 2 wall fixtures in front of the Wells Fargo lobby. We're replacing both these with a full cutoff LED fixture. And the fixtures is right here on the upper left-hand corner, if you're wondering what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
This is showing that we are adding 2 wall fixtures right here. They're going to be located, the bottom of the fixture is located 12 feet 6 inches above finished grade. You may see 2 lights right here, but these are actually getting removed. So those won't be there. So there won't be 4 light fixtures on that wall. This is showing the same light fixture. We're adding one right here at 12 feet 6 inches. So they're all going to be in line with each other. This is the one fixture at the front of the facade. It is now going in between these signs below the signage.
Okay. And that's it. I mean, basically, we've got one fixture at the back of the back facade, 2 on the side wall, and 1 on the side of the canopy. 2 wall-mounted fixtures at the Wells Fargo building. You're going to replace some of the soffit, the hi-hats in the soffit or the canopy with new LED fixtures, and you're also eliminating some of that.
Correct. So we are eliminating ones where we have the 2 wall fixtures by the lobby. We're eliminating the canopy fixtures above that lobby just so it's not super bright, because we have the light from the wall fixtures.
Alex, could you flip through those dark sky renderings that you sent earlier too? Because I think that helps to really visualize where the things are actually falling on the whole facade.
Okay, so there should be about 4 sides. This is kind of the upper view, not really useful. This is the front view. As you can see, this is the fixture that's going to be on the facade, and these are the signage. Here's the lobby light, and there's one right here. It's hard to see because the tree's in the way. This is the side of the building, And I've noticed, I got this fixed after I sent you, this is not the correct location. It's going to be at the same location as these two lights. So I will get that fixed, and I can send you an updated version as well for documentation.
What is the size of the dimensions of that fixture itself?
The fixture? Yeah, let me pull it up. So it's about 18 inches wide and about 4 inches tall.
Okay. All right. I guess, does anybody have any objections to the fixture that is mounted on the back facade?
No.
No.
All right. The fixtures on the side of the building, both on the wall and over the canopy.
No.
No.
The fixture which is on the pole.
Nope.
Okay. So now we're just on the front facade. Anybody have any objection to changing the light fixtures in the canopy?
No.
Nope.
The two light fixtures which are going to flank the mounted on the wall, flanking the entrance.
No.
No.
All right. So am I correct that the only one left is that one between the signs that is on the front face of the canopy?
I have no problem with it. I think this is a huge improvement from where we started, and I can see how much effort went into this, and I can definitely tolerate just one on the facade.
All right. It still bothers me, and realistically, Alex, we haven't seen an image of that light fixture imposed on the front of that parapet facade. I'm concerned that I guess go back to the image that you had.
This one right here?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess my concern is that 18 inches wide, that's a pretty wide fixture, which is going to be very noticeable. And to me, it's, I don't know. It seems like it's going to look like a mistake. You've got this one fixture. All of the other ones I think are sort of make sense, but then we've got this one fixture which sort of sticks out there. Is it? Do we have any other alternatives to that?
It's really hard. So the reason this fixture here, and not to get super in depth, and the reason why it's on top of the facade instead of underneath it, is because we have to reach this outer area right here. And while this pole head does help, and it reaches almost to this area, and we really need the height to reach it for the minimum state statute. Because we were able to remove this other wall fixture, but we really do need something there. Even adding another pole head doesn't really help, and honestly, it will just make everything underneath it look a lot brighter than it needs to. And even in these areas over here, one, we would have to add a new pole. Two, these are all handicap spots, so just our ability to add poles in your handicap areas are already limited just based on ADA accessibility.
Well, go back to the picture of the facade.
Yep.
Now, off to the left, we actually have where the other fixture was. If we kept that fixture and deleted this one.
Sorry. I'm going to see if I can pull up a fixture of the whole area real quick, just so we can see it.
While you're doing that, I would just point out that the signs are not evenly spaced on this facade, and by putting this fixture in the proposed location, it is sort of filling in the space between the cleaner sign and the Angelina sign, which is wider and out of rhythm. And remembering what we talked about in our last session, we were very concerned about the fixture, which has since been removed, being on to the left of the Soho Salon sign, where it was going to be on a different plane and potentially at a different height. I think that Alex has responded to all of the concerns that we had in our last session, and you know, for there to be one light between these signs, it might look a little funny, but I don't think it's going to detract from the experience of the historic district. And also, it is essentially going to be in line with the fixtures on the side as well. So there is some amount of consistency going around the corner of the building.
Well, and I agree with Sean, and then I feel too that this is a commercial building. This is, I think, a situation where there's a state mandate that needs to be addressed, the lighting requirement, and I kind of see this one outlier lighting fixture as kind of falling more in line with when we talk about utilities, like when people install solar panels, putting the equipment in the kind of least offensive, least public view. Electrical box, like this is just a utility that is necessary and ultimately maybe temporary. So that's the reason I'm not as bothered by its location.
Well, I am. I mean, I think that putting an 18-inch light fixture between the Soho Clears and Angelina's, and it's going to be below the signs and the lighting for the signs. It would be a lot more noticeable, and I'd like to at least pursue with Alex the question of where we had that other fixture before up there. Yes, up where you were pointing to. If we kept that light fixture as opposed to the one that was that you're putting in between the two signs, would that accomplish the same lighting?
Okay.
So you are saying right now you would rather it be almost where my mouse is instead of
higher
at the parapet.
Yeah.
Let me just look to see.
I would not support doing that. I think then you're going to basically have a fixture which is lighting a brick wall. I think it's going to make more sense that it lights the storefronts. I think that this is I agree that it's that the fixture is 18 inches is not minuscule, but based on the size of the whole facade, I think moving it over so that it illuminates a brick wall is going to look much more like a mistake.
It's not going to illuminate a brick wall because it's how wide is that canopy in that location? You're talking about at least 5-6 feet in front of it, and it's a downlight.
I will say, since that we already had a lot of revisions and we're pretty lean on this site for the statute wise, I'm not comfortable with just being able to say, yes, that's work. That's definitely something that I would have to run in a design software. And at that point, it still might not work. I really do think that for a design standpoint, I'm not saying design is aesthetically, but from a compliance and security and light levels needed standpoint, this is our best location because it really does hit this outer area that we need to light to the best, because this is a type 4 distribution, which means that it's throwing light out to the right and to the left. Whereas if we're over here, it's going to be throwing light out here, but we're only going to get some of the light coming to the left, and these might be failing numbers now. So I don't want to get too far into it.
But let me ask you a question. The reflected ceiling of this canopy is not actually correct, because there is an intermediate bump out, and then the Food Town canopy is even deeper. Am I not correct? I mean, at least that's the way it looked from the image.
So right here is what you're saying. Right, this is basically, we extended this building on this plan just to show that the building doesn't stop. On the previous plans, we cut it off and there was photometrics. Right. So what we did over here is extend the building just to show that, hey, there are items over there. It doesn't just stop.
No, I'm talking about the canopy that's over the walkway. Yeah. Yeah. In other words, if you take a look at the image that you showed before.
Or sorry, this one.
So now you have that, and doesn't the next portion then step out even further, and then the next portion steps out even further?
Yeah, yes, but what I'm trying to say is, since our compliance area ends, we didn't survey anything over past this right here, so we're not going to have an accurate model of the Food Town building.
I know, but you're talking about filling in lighting at the edge of the compliance area.
Yeah, so you're talking about this canopy right here.
Right.
Right, and I think we do have the bump out. It's just, it might not show to scale right here, but it's a very small bump out right here.
Well, you had an image of, looking down the walkway, the edge fixture.
On the markup, or which?
No, where you're indicating where the light fixtures are going to go. Mm-hmm. There was one which is at the edge of the canopy.
Yep, right
on
here.
The side, no, on the side wall. RC1.
Oh, down right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you have an image of that?
Yes, I do. So that is right there.
No, okay, but I mean, what's the new one that you're putting there?
We are just removing this. Just so
I know, but aren't you putting a new fixture on at the edge of that?
Yes, we are doing it right here. So it's not facing out towards the parking lot, it's facing.
Okay, well, I'm just interested in the configuration of the canopy in that location.
Would adding one to the right, Al, the front facade to the right, when you're looking at the building to the right of the Wells Fargo, just to kind of have two on the front facade? I don't know what that does to, I don't know, would that balance it out in a way that would...
You're talking about essentially bracketing Angelina with two light fixtures.
No, all the way to the right of the Wells Fargo, kind of, yeah, there. Like there, and then where they're proposing one right now in between. So at least there's two on the front facade, because you're saying it kind of feels like it's just a sporadic thing that's not purposeful there.
I would be, I mean,
that's more light.
I would think at least that gives it a little more reason for being there.
Right.
But our original conversation with this applicant revolved around trying to have as few fixtures as possible. And that was the concern of our board, and that was also the concern of the planning board. And I have to respect that they did the work that they had to do to work through their tables to get the required amount of light with the fewest number of fixtures. And ultimately, it is going to be a pretty benign addition to a less historic building within our district.
Well,
I don't think that moving the fixture from the proposed position over to the other side of the cleaners or adding a second one, it's not going to improve the situation. It's going to draw more attention to it.
I agree.
Well, I'm sorry, who did I cut off?
Oh, not me. I just said I agreed with Sean.
Well, I disagree. I think that you're talking about, light fixture, which just all of a sudden appears along this entire stretch of the facade is looks strange. I agree, we're not talking about any historic values because there's nothing historic about this particular building. The only thing it is, to me, it's a question of design. And let me ask Alex, if you take that fixture that you have on the lot line and move it over to where Todd suggested, move it over to where there.
Right here.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think that would work. There is a reading right at the property line, but I don't think it would matter if it's on this side or this side. I would just at that point be concerned because the planning board has made it clear they want to try to keep it as dark as possible while maintaining compliance. And we've also had huge discussions about this parking stripe area. And the reason we're doing this is to keep this parking area and back area lit for security. So while I do think that will work, I don't know if we would just be in a back and forth then between you and the planning board.
All right, let me ask, since Matt is on the call, your thoughts on it, Matt?
Yeah, I think that, you know, that this stuff doesn't really so much have a design intent that has anything to do with aesthetics as it does to meet the statute. And when you start to move the fixtures around, then obviously you change the light pattern. What we've tried to do in the comp plan, and we know the residents will probably not like the additional lighting, is to keep the lighting at the lowest levels that still meet the state statute. So, you know, for example, adding a light, you know, towards Food Town really just extends the light trespass, right, past this, you know, past the 60-foot radius. So what we'd like to do, and Alex has spent a lot of time, he's also worked with us in his legal department. I had a different read of the statute, which they have adjusted their plans to, which I think that reduces a lot of the light levels by a factor of 5, you know, because it's a very dark site. It's completely unlit. You know, the last thing we wanted it to look like was, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you know, this like, you know, this white column. And so I think he's spent a lot of time, as the legal department has, in working with the village to meet the statute, even though it's something, you know, that we are only doing because of the state statute for banking safety.
Okay, and you know, I appreciate that one of the reasons why we bounced it to you was because of the concern as far as lighting levels. The only thing is that by moving that fixture from one side to the front, I don't know if that, how much additional light does that really give us? I mean, it's the same number of light fixtures, and the only thing is whether it's facing, the building across the alley, or whether it's facing the parking lot. And I think since it's a full cutoff fixture, it should be relatively focused down in the area that we're concerned with, which is the area in front of the ATM machine.
So I will say, since this fixture is a type 4, which means it throws out, just moving this fixture, because right now this fixture actually doesn't add very minimal lighting to in front of the building. It's throwing everything towards these parking spaces. If we move it here, it's no longer going to be throwing any light in this area at all. And it's all the light's going to be thrown to like where my mouse is moving and right in front. So these 5s, 4s, 2s might become 9s, 4s, 6s.
That's too much. And we also, the planning board also asked that he keep the side, even though these parking spaces that are actually Louis, the main course, we want to keep that lit just because obviously, even though the state statute says you have to light, you know, any legal parking, and even though that's not legal parking, the planning board would like to see that lit just because obviously the last thing you want is like a dark alley, you know, right outside your well lit, you know, that's obviously where anybody's going to lie in wait. So if you flip that fixture to the front, you're obviously going to create a darker spot there. I don't know that that's going to look, you know, none of this stuff is certainly ideal, and nobody really has nobody's certainly designing this for, you know, for a lighting program that is for aesthetics. You know, I mean, it's you know, and Alex's challenge, you know, Wells Fargo's challenges with the landlord, it was the most they could do to get him to put the one pole in, because we have now agreed on the read of the statute. As the planning board, you know, challenged the design or the interpretation of the statute, so the light levels are greatly reduced, and so now that light pole only has one head instead of two. So, you know, and the things that you guys have done as far as, you know, having them take the, you know, lights off the posts, you know, I think they're at a kind of a tipping point of, you know, being able to meet the state statute to keep the light levels low to comply with, you know, the nighttime character of the village that we're asking them to. And the fact that we all know, I mean, all of us that went through Food Town or through Dunkin' Donuts rather, and the light levels and, you know, all the concerns in the Marion Avenue residents, they're not going to love this. So we would like to at least be able to explain that we approve this with the lowest light levels possible.
All right. Going to, do I have a motion concerning this application?
First, we just need to do the secret vote, and I would classify it as a type 2 action.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Do I have a motion concerning the light modifications?
I'd make a motion to accept the application as submitted.
Do I have a
I'll second? I'll second.
Okay, let's take a vote on the application. Todd, how do you vote?
Vote to accept.
Andrea?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
I vote no, so it's approved.
Great.
All right. I'll process the certificate of appropriateness over the weekend, and I'll get it out to you, Alex.
Yep, just let me know if you need any information from me.
No, that's okay. All right. Yes.
Thank you.
If there's anything that I need for the C of A, I'll get in touch with you. All right. New business. 57 Locust Ridge. Okay, Madeline Sanchez.
Hi, I'm Madeline Sanchez. I'm the architect for Heather and Jeff O'Neill. They're on the call as well. And has everybody had a chance to look at what we submitted?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So should I just walk you through the elements of the project?
Please.
Okay. So I'll share my screen. So the address is Locust Ridge, is here on the map. It is between Route 301 and Mountain Avenue. And the site plan shows the area of work that we are proposing to enclose this existing porch. This porch was added to the house in 2000. This is Locust Ridge here, and then the neighbors. I have a Google Maps view as well. So this is Locust Ridge. This is the house, the area of work in the back of the house, the two houses on either side, houses here. I have photos of those I'll show you in a second. There's a healthy tree buffer behind the house. And then from Orchard Street, there is a glimpse of the back of the house. And then from Route 301, there is also a glimpse of the house from in front of the church. And then as you're walking on Locust Ridge, you do see glimpses of the too. There. So this is the view on Locust Ridge. The house is here in the center. This is the front of the house. The house was built in 1920, and it was originally a two-family house. and it was renovated in the year 2000. They replaced some windows. Well, actually they replaced all the windows, moved some windows around. We have drawings of those, of the renovation that was done in 2000. And they also removed the siding and put vinyl siding on the house. So this is the southwest corner as you're walking on Locust. So you get a glimpse of the back porch there. And then as you're walking from the other direction on the north side, you see the back porch as well. This is the neighbor to the south and the neighbor to the north and the neighbors across the street. And then as you're standing on the porch, this is what you see in the backyard. So this is looking down to Orchard Street, that's the neighbor, and then there's the Methodist Church. So as you're walking Orchard Street, you get
I lost the image. Does everybody see what Madeline is showing us?
Yes, I can see it still.
I can see.
All right. All right, continue on.
So as you're walking on Orchard Street, you get a view to the house. It's a seasonal view. This was taken in the winter. And then from in front of the church, you see the house, but there's all these evergreens that are here. So the porch that we will be enclosing on the first floor, but because the site slopes down, it's actually elevated up here. And it currently has a knee wall. And and then this is the back wall of the house. And so we're basically gonna be pushing that wall out to enclose this. And this is a walkout basement underneath it. So this is on the porch itself. This is the existing kitchen door and kitchen window and dining room windows. So these will be removed. I'll show you that in the drawings. And these will also be removed. And this is what we're enclosing. And this is a view right from the west side. And this is an existing window blow up. Basically, the windows are Marvin Integrity windows. They're fiberglass on the outside and wood on the inside. And there's wood casing around and a wood sill as well. And this is the vinyl siding. So that's a window detail that's all over the existing house. So now I'll go to the drawings. So this is the rear house of the house, and this is the front, just to orient you. So I know that the interior isn't in your realm, but I want to show what we're doing on the inside because it influences the windows on the outside. So this is the existing kitchen and the existing dining room at the rear of the house. And so this back wall will basically be coming out. And then over here, we're going to be removing these windows and creating an opening from this room to this room. And then on the south side, this existing window, that's, I'm gonna enlarge it, make it wider. So the elevations, this is the south elevation. So this is the rear porch, removing the knee wall, keeping everything else, keeping the columns, the roof, and removing that knee wall. And then this kitchen window will be removed and made wider. The north elevation shows the same as the south. And then the west elevation shows that we will be cutting out that opening and then removing that part of the wall, but everything else stays the same. The roof stays, everything else stays. So the proposed plan, so the porch is 7 feet deep by 34 feet wide, and it currently has 3 structural posts that are 11 feet center line to center line. And the idea is to enclose 3 sides of it with glass so that it feels with windows, so it feels like an enclosed porch. And because we're adding this wall between the sitting room and the kitchen, we need to have it resolve with something. So we're going to create a post-like element there, a solid piece there for the wall to die into. And so that created a structural, like a half bay, in a sense, a 5'6" half bay. So we repeated that element here and that element here so that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal bays. And so this is the post, and then these are the window frames, the casings. And so the windows are 4'6" wide. And so inside here, you have the countertop that wraps here. So these windows are countertop height. And here you have the sitting room. So the windows are at seated eye level. I'll show you in the elevations. So this is the kitchen side where we are going to increase that window that's on the existing facade. And then this is the new window on the enclosed porch. They're 4 feet high and they're 3'7" to the sill height, and that responds to the height of the countertop and a backsplash, and responds to the height of the existing window of the kitchen. This is the north side where you have the dining room window, and so the sitting room window continues that height as well. The 5'4" will be matching the existing windows, the same type. And so they're double hung windows with a divided light in the middle. And that is so that the windows aren't so horizontal, but that they have more of a vertical proportion to match the ones in the rest of the facade. So the west elevation, there's 3 bays here, and this is the sitting area. And then these are the 3 bays in the kitchen. And then everything else is vinyl siding. We'll have wood casing and wood elements around the windows to match the existing as well.
Can I ask a quick question on the rear facade? The siding as you have it right now runs from post to post to post, right? In other words, right now you've got the 2 corner and then 2 interior structural posts, which
right.
are
So this is a post here and this is a post here. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, are you going to be able to run the siding over that and still sort of die into the post as you do at the ends, at the corners?
Right. So if you look at the existing porch, you look at the interior.
No, I'm really concerned about the exterior.
Okay,
I see.
Right.
All right, never mind.
So basically the existing posts are sandwiched between the siding and the interior wall.
Yeah, so the siding is already to the exterior of the post. Okay.
Right. I also have, you know, after we go through the window details, I did prepare this today just to clarify, because I realize that the drawing is at a small scale, so that we can go over the detail, you know, at that junction, and then look at the wall section, so that you see like what's in front, what's behind, what's proud. You know, we can go over those details too. I didn't submit this because I just did it today, but I think it will help us in the discussion. So the windows that we're using or proposing to use are Marvin Elevate collection. It was formerly known as the Marvin Integrity. It's a new name for it. And so this window that's shown here is sort of what we're proposing. It's a double hung window with the divided light in the center. The window is made of fiberglass. It's a very, very dense material. It's more rigid than vinyl or a vinyl wood composite. It's very durable. And so the divided light is what we're using here with the spacers. So this is a detail of the window, and you can see the components of it. And then this is in a 2x6 wall, which is what we'll be doing. So the other materials will be the wood casing and then the vinyl siding. The wood casing is 4.5 inches and the vinyl siding is 4 3/8 exposure. And let's see, these are drawings that were done in 2000 that were of the existing house. And then these are these details. So basically this is the post, and then the sill is proud of everything. So if you look at the elevations, you see that the sill is the thing that continues along.
All right, so the new windows will match the existing?
Correct.
And the wood casings will match the existing?
Yes.
Can we go back to the that image of the existing rear facade? Yeah. Okay. So in other words, right now the siding is proud of the posts.
That's right.
And that is consistent. Do we have a shot from the side?
Yes. Here.
Okay. So theoretically, that post would, all the posts would pretty much disappear, you know, if the siding covers it. In other words, all the siding is to the exterior of the posts.
That was the idea, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Unless there's a better way to do it.
Well, and just looking at the elevation that you drew, it looks like the corner posts are not, but you know, it looks like the corner posts are continuous down, but in fact, what we see in the photograph is really
so that sill would continue around. I understand. Yeah. Yes, so I can make that correction to the drawing so that the siding wraps and the sill would also wrap. The gutter would go down though,
right?
Because the gutters are shown
right
in the. Here we go. Yeah. So it'd be just like that. The gutter would continue down. We're not going to touch the gutters. We're going to leave them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess the first thing is, do I have a motion concerning secra?
Gotta unmute myself. I would move to classify as type 2 because it's a minor modification to a residential structure.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I seconded.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any questions concerning the application?
Yeah, I do. Could you go to the elevation, the proposed elevation?
Oh, did I stop my screen share? You see that? Okay. I just don't see you guys anymore. Okay. Oh, something funky happened. All right. There we go. You want this one or the side ones?
Well, right now we don't see anything.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Huh. All right. I probably got out of screen share. Sorry.
Okay.
Now you can see it with the scuba diver. Okay. All right. There we go. Pull that up. Okay.
Yeah. So is on when we're looking at this on the left side, it sort of looks like the 3 windows that are taller, the top light of glass is a little bit shorter than the bottom. Is that on purpose or is that an error? Or
that's not on purpose. It's just how it was drafted. I can correct that.
Okay, they will be equal. I would.
Yeah, it'll be a typical window. Mm-hmm. A typical double hung.
I'm just asking because I guess visually, if they lined up with the windows on the right side would be, I don't know whether that would be better or make it look a little bit stranger.
Yeah, I think what Todd's saying is that right now
This
it looks
line
like
here.
it's a half. Yeah, the muntins.
Lower sash.
Yeah, I mean, the window itself is, you know, typically,
Well,
it kind of reads, it reads differently from the inside and outside because of the way that overlap, how a double hung works. So even though they're equal, they're really not. You know, it's like a visual thing, depending on if you're looking at it from the inside or the outside.
Well, like there, the one that you see there, the I don't know whether that's a casement that's made to look like a double. Yeah, it's unequal. So I was curious.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, no, they're not. It's a drafting error. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
all right. So in other words, the windows in the kitchen are going to the bottom sashes or the bottom sash will be shorter than the upper sash.
No, they're all equal.
They're all equal. The split between the upper and lower sash for the three larger will not align with the three smaller. That's sort of what I was looking at.
I think it would have to be a custom made window and then they wouldn't open. I mean, the idea was to make a larger opening. So when it's open, you want it to be at least half, right?
So it is going to be the way it's shown.
Well, no, I think Todd's pointing out that, because he's a window guy, I know your window company. I've gotten windows for Joe Lombardi from you. So this isn't drawn correctly. I apologize. This should be half and half.
Okay. But just because the 5464 is taller than the 5448, if the center mullion or the center sash is halfway between the top and the bottom, then it can't line up with the other one because the other one's shorter.
Correct.
No, it would be down here. It would be just a little lower. Yep.
Okay. All right. And the 5448 is going to be as it's drawn.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is the siding going to be new siding to match, or are you repurpose? Is there additional siding on site, or are you using the portion from the porch?
I guess we could reuse the portion on the porch, sure. And then just get siding to match.
I just don't know. I mean, just as far as how much it's worn, you said it was put up in 2000, so it's 20-year-old siding. If the idea was to have all new siding, but yeah.
if you requested us to repurpose for ecological reasons, we certainly can do that.
No, that's between you and your maker. But I would just want to know that if the just to make sure that the color that there's not a big change, a big difference in tone between the existing siding and the new siding. So as long as that can be accounted for, then it doesn't matter to me personally if the siding is reused.
Any other questions or comments?
I think it looks good. I think that everything is sufficient as far as the drawings are concerned. And it really is a continuation of porches all around the district being enclosed from buildings of various ages. And I think particularly to add this indoor usable space to this building without a significant addition is a great example for other families who need a little bit of extra room.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the application as submitted?
I will make a motion to accept the application as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. Todd? Yes, no?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay.
Great.
All right.
That was easy.
You got it.
We go to public hearing?
No.
Not for this.
Not
Really?
Yeah.
Porch and Phil. Yeah, it doesn't change the footprint of the house. And Madeline, you were so organized as always. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were going to have to go to public hearing, but this is great. Thank you.
No, it's not really in a very visible. In other words, from the street, it's just barely visible. So
and the porch itself is a later addition to the property, so it isn't a, you know, you're not removing a lot of great.
Okay, good to know.
So
it's not adding, you know, significant mass to the house.
Right. Yeah. Good. Okay, so then we just get the certificate of appropriateness and go to the
this weekend I'll process the certificate of appropriateness.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
I'll stop my share. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. I guess, how are we doing on time, Todd?
5 or so probably minutes.
Okay. Then let me raise one issue that I'd like to have at least you participate in, and that's the budget for next year. The question had to do with Kirsten's fee, and what Michelle suggested is that she bill part of her fee now because there has been money that was set aside in order for her to bill, because I think that we were anticipating finishing up this fiscal year, and that is evidently is not going to happen. So the question I have is other stuff which we may want to include in the budget. Basically, previous budgets, we talked about expenses. How much do we think that, you know, we need for printing?
Sean, I think you brought that up, right? Printing.
Yeah, I wasn't able to reach out to Kelly, but I can talk to her. I can email her and just get a general idea of, you know, a couple of different sort of mailing sizes. And also I can talk to her about whether they handle the postage itself so we can get a more complete price. But Todd, this is something that we've been talking about, doing a mailing once the new standards are adopted to everybody in the district, just to directing them to the website and sort of announcing them. I think actually a postcard would be great because we could have the front of it be whatever the cover of the new standards are. And then on the back, just a couple of lines of text directing people to the website. So I can look and see, I'll talk to Grays about just getting some kind of general idea that we can include in the budget.
Well, okay. Now, are you talking about the postage for the mailings, or the postage, or the cost of the printing? Because there's a certain number of hard copies that we're obligated to.
I'm just talking about the cost of the printing of a mailer and mailing, that the cost to print and mail a mailer announcing the new standards. We could also get a printing cost for the copies of the book itself, if we know how many there are or how many we'd want.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's...
Well, it's not gonna be this fiscal year. It's gonna be the next fiscal year, because I don't see any logic in printing a portion of it, and then later on you're going to print another whole portion of it, and that, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So
but isn't the fiscal year up in the end of May?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we could still send out the postcard when the main body of the standards are adopted, while the appendices or the resource guides are still being completed.
Right.
But we will not print anything, I agree, until the summer, once everything's all done.
Until the whole document's done.
Right. So that would be something that we would need then to.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't especially need the cost of the printing of the mailers for notifying people of this first, the main body of the design standards, because that's going to happen in this fiscal year. We're talking about the budget for next fiscal year, which would be after May 30th. So what we need to do is we'll have Kirsten bill the village for the main body portion, right?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. So then what do we need to tell Michelle then? So what we need to provide Michelle with is
the budgets for the following fiscal year.
Right.
It'll be the balance of whatever the fee that's left from the $3,200 that we had, that were allocated.
Plus the printing.
Percentage number. What percentage is the main body?
Yeah. Well, I think again we should just do it by the number of pages.
Except, are we going to know how many pages there are all total?
I believe we have a pretty good idea of how many pages there are. Yes.
Okay. Now the thing is that Michelle needs this by the 1st of March, and so I told her that we would have it to her by Friday.
Okay. So we can figure it out before Friday.
All right. So let me know, and I'll prepare the document and put in all the other stuff, which really is sort of rudimentary.
Okay. So she needs to know how much we need to pay Kirsten before the end of the year.
No, she doesn't need to know that, because we need to know that because we need to subtract that from the $3,200, and then the balance is what is going to be in the budget for the next fiscal year.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
All right. And if there is anybody who wants to go to a course and have the village paid for it, I need to know that now also.
I have the one, Sean, you had emailed me about, but I think that was already.
That's already a wash, because that was getting pushed off from last year. I cannot think of anything that I am planning to pursue in the new year, upcoming year.
All right. So with that, Todd, if you want to bail.
Okay. Thank you. My fun evening continues.
That's right.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Okay, take care, Todd.
Bye.
Okay, workshop. Joe Thompson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hey, Joe.
So tell us what you want to talk about.
So maybe it makes sense to just pull up the screen share and the latest version of the drawings we submitted. Can everybody see what's currently on the screen?
Yes.
So what we've done is, since our last meeting, taken into account, I believe, all of the dialogue that we had with regard to reconsidering the proposal for Lot 1 to be something that might provide a better overall balance composition and maybe feel a little less contrived than forcing 2 of the double gable houses, which is a pretty unique composition, side by side with each other. We were also able to mirror the house to provide the garage facing 63 Paulding, as opposed to facing the common path to the park. And it seems that all this has worked pretty well, and the owner's been open to all these changes. So this is the revised composition, reformatted, again, to be a little bit more complementary to 65 Paulding, the Sherman's house, which is under construction.
Okay, let me ask the board members this. Anybody have any comments or objections to what they see here? All right, Joe, looks good. Carry on.
So beyond that, really, it's a different iteration of the house style and 65 Paulding, where we've tried to keep a number of the elements the same way that the two dual gable houses were different iterations of each other with some common features and some differentiated features. So what we tried to still include was at least one of the arched windows in the gable, the full 6/6 grills, which the prior proposal had. And what we'll also work on is differentiating the garage doors, maybe between the 3 lots, actually maybe thinking of changing lot 1 to possibly an 8-light configuration to be a little bit more, to better resemble the grill pattern for the windows. We retained the front entry door as it was designed on the prior house. So we're trying to bring both of those together and again, provide some contrast, but you know, in the interest of an overall unified composition.
Okay, anybody have any comments, questions?
We're going to flip through the drawing packet of just lot number 1, right?
We can go through anything you'd like. There haven't been any changes proposed to lot 2 at this point. So if you'd like to go through drawing by drawing on lot 1, happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great, just because my eyesight isn't that good. So
yeah, this will be a little bit larger, a little bit easier to read, hopefully. So again, same elevation. This is the prior approved elevation in relation to what we're currently proposing now.
Why did you decide to change the shapes of the windows? Just curious.
As far as the arches on the second floor, I don't know that they really work anymore when we change to this overall larger gable roof with a reverse gable. They just don't really seem to fit the same way. You know, whereas before, the relationship they had in that mass that projected, I think made sense. It may feel a bit forced if we try to do that underneath an overhang.
Yeah, your design seems more in keeping with the other houses on Paulding Ave. I can only think of one house on Paulding Ave that has those arched windows, so that's I was asking.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like it really worked or fit anymore. You know, the one in the gable I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
To keep it in the doors, I think could work also. Could go either way with the front door now. You know, now that we don't have the double gables, does the double arch in the door still make sense or not? Maybe that could be up for discussion.
Yeah, I think you might want to look for a just because it's so far away from that upper window, pulling in a door style that matches the windows on either side of it, I think is going to look a little bit more consistent with those rather than trying to make a reference to that upper window. Or maybe if it was a single arch, that might be different, but I think otherwise trying to just relate to all the windows on that floor might be smoother.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost a little bit out of character now. So we could easily take a look at a different style door that either has a single arch or maybe provides a light that has grills in it, similar to the windows. You know, put that in the next rendition of this house.
Was that door part of the original design?
It was. So to go back to the sheet overall, you can see it came from the prior approved elevation, but it just may not make sense anymore. We did keep elements like the brackets on the porch columns, the double porch columns, which differentiate it from the Sherman's house. again, the full 6/6 grill pattern as opposed to 6/1 to help differentiate it from the other houses as well. So we've tried to sort of blend a lot of these elements into the new composition so we don't lose everything that the prior version had.
And right, so you're not going to need any railings or guardrails or anything around the porch on the side because it's proud of the change in elevation, right?
Correct. We've kept it under 30 inches of elevation difference. So we're able to construct these porches without railings, which I think is nice.
It's nice. It allows the porch to be less fussy. It allows it to be much more open, which is nice.
Simpler and almost more approachable. Also, I mean, that's actually a really beautiful thing to have a street with, lined with covered porches. Very strong neighborhood, actually, usually. Beyond that, floor plans, I'm not sure how interested we are in the interior layout. That's very comparable to what it was before, but we've flushed up the facade so that way we can create the composition that you see in elevation. Same for the second floor. Front elevation again.
How is the chimney going to be addressed? Is it just going to be direct vent? Is that what it is?
That's what we're proposing, similar to the Sherman's house.
Okay. Yeah. And that's going to be on the side that goes along the walking path, right? Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it is going to be not immediately visible from the street, but it will be visible from that path.
It seems like you have a big blank wall area up on the second floor.
Yeah, so I guess to take that to plan, that is, let's see. So we have 2 windows, a single window, and then nothing on this master, but that could be reconsidered. So here's a double, the lower window at the stair. There is a little bit of a blank area here. That is the master. It's possible we could possibly consider windows maybe above where the nightstands might be placed, smaller, comparable to those that are down on the ground floor.
How about on the southwest elevation there? No, up to the right of that. Yeah, that area.
That area, again, I believe is a bedroom.
That's the head of the bed.
Actually, sorry, that's the master. The other is a larger guest with an ensuite bathroom.
But that's going over the garage.
Right.
Correct. That's set back in plane from the garage, so that's set back over 20 feet.
Go back to the north, that large open area, the northwest elevation. Go back to the floor plan.
Which would be this wall right here.
Yeah, and essentially that's the issue there is the headrest of the bed.
That's likely the wall that the bed would be placed on.
Yeah.
I think that the drawing is actually reversed though, because isn't that double window that you're showing, shouldn't that be,
You're correct, Sean. I see that too. I mirrored the plan, but didn't mirror that elevation yet.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to figure out which is the porch and which is the deck, but yeah, that's right.
We'll get that in the next version. So to correct
There's still a blank wall, but it's
this
just not the way that
but this is actually the composition. You're right.
Okay.
Yep.
So that does actually change it a little bit though, Al, though, because now this blank area is further away from the street. So it's not when you're approaching the house from north on holding, as you come to that corner, you are going to see these two windows, one over the other. I mean, it would be nice if there were more windows on that facade, but it is set back a little bit.
Yeah, it reads, I agree with Sean. It's set back more, and it also reads more like, you know, a lot of the other, or you know, the other historic homes within the district have these blank spaces where staircases are running up. So, and it's usually towards the back.
Okay, but that is, you know, that isn't the staircase, that's the bedroom. And
no, I know it's not, but I'm saying it reads
a big area with no windows.
But I'm saying
we'll leave that up to Joe to figure out.
Yeah, but I think, Joe, if you could do, you know, like you had suggested, either two kind of half-height windows, like above where the side tables would be, or maybe even, yeah, I mean, I think that would, I don't know if they could be quite that tall. They might need to be a little bit shorter, but you can do the measurements on your side.
Yeah, I mean, you know, how wide of a headboard do you really need?
I was just thinking of the height off the floor of the sill, but
yeah, because I guess ideally these would fall above the nightstands. You could take a quick look here and see how they align from floor to floor. So part of it is we end up in that closet a little bit, but we might be able to. We probably have to take the fireplace a little bit off center in the room to maybe reposition to get those in alignment. You wouldn't want those out of alignment.
Personally, I think that, you know, I'm not bothered by the empty space towards the rear of the residence, because it just, again, to me, you know, reads like a staircase space. And I don't know, it might just, all those windows looks really busy to me.
That's what I almost thought too, is that maybe it's too many.
Yeah.
What about,
it's a lot.
How would you feel if the attic, instead of doing an attic event, if there was an attic window?
Sure.
No. Yeah.
Well, you know, realistically, no.
Maybe not this exact one,
but I disagree. I thought those additional two windows that it just sort of, because that's a large open space which is facing, you know, there's nothing there. There's a big break between that facade and the next adjoining structure. So it's going to be a very visible elevation.
Maybe a better solution could be, you know, the balance, eliminate the window and the stairs. So we're looking at 6 overall that are a little bit more organized, as opposed to, you know, the up and down that we had before.
I think that's an improvement. It just looks a little more organized and balanced than having, you know, 5, you know,
yeah, I think it's going to come down to what you need to achieve on the inside as well. How you can actually align those windows. The staircase window doesn't have an effect on my feelings one way or the other, whether it's there or not. I don't think it's it being there makes it too busy, and it being gone is fine also. But it's those bedroom windows that I think you're going to have to just do a little bit more research into.
I would imagine if this is the preferable solution, that there probably would be a way that we could make that work and organize this.
Well, yeah, the two windows by the fireplace, I mean, can they be the same depth as the windows on the left side?
No reason they couldn't be.
Yeah, and then
crude, but could be something like that.
Yeah, and then that gives you a little bit more freedom because you've got the the assembly of the windows down on the first floor. There is some logic to it, and on the upper floor you can maybe go with thinner windows but justify them to the inside line. In other words, well, I mean, no.
I do think the height increase to match the living room in the front is definitely an improvement.
And you can keep the upper floor windows the same height because I think that there is some design logic to it.
Mm-hmm.
Want to continue on with the remainder of the elevations?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we look at the rear?
So the rear, one change that's proposed that wasn't part of the original, I think it could be a nice addition too, is that we wanted to gain a little bit more space in the living room. And so what we're proposing is to project part of the living room as a box bay to the ground with 3 ganged windows together. Should give a nice opportunity for a bench seat or a nook inside the living room, and I think adds a little bit of nice detail to the rear of the house.
And that would be the whole depth of the back deck, or would it be?
No, just a 2-foot projection. So
okay.
Not as deep as the deck.
It does still give the deck a nice anchor point.
It does. It's definitely better than a blank flat wall, which is unfortunately what you usually get in most modern construction.
Right.
The back deck wraps around all the way up to the garage.
It does. So it gets deeper by the garage, and this would likely be the area where somebody might place a patio table.
Right. How about, do you have any doors, patio doors that go, access the?
We do. So there's a
that's theirs. Okay.
Yep, right here.
What's the room immediately to the right of those doors?
Right by these 2 windows?
Yeah.
That is the kitchen.
All right. And you don't have doors around the corner?
I do not believe we do. Let me just pull up the plan. I think we explored that at one point,
yeah.
But it's sacrificing linear footage of countertop for another opening seemed to be detrimental.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a very large kitchen, really. Adequate, but not a very large kitchen.
No, I mean, it would have been nice if you could have had a direct connection from the kitchen to the deck, but I think that the configuration that you have works quite well. It's not that that long of a walk from those doors to where you'd have the sitting area.
Right. On the rear elevation, what was it looked like there was a second set of doors behind the stairs, but
so that's actually, on the original plans, there's a storage area in the basement.
Okay.
Which I think probably does make sense. It's probably a pretty practical use of a part of that basement. Those doors probably wouldn't make sense to have any glass on them if it's storage. Okay. So I think what we have in mind currently is just a set of solid double doors.
Okay.
Which is obscured a little bit by the staircase.
Right. And and then the area to the right of that, is that below grade, or I just...
So grade at that level should be partway up that wall.
Okay.
And so you probably have, I can check this, but about 4 to 5 feet of exposed foundation. And then as you turn the corner back to the side facade, that's this wall here.
Mm-hmm.
It slopes up to just a minimal amount of exposure facing the street.
Right, okay. So you're proposing then that the larger window area and the French doors, the basement walkout French doors, that's all going to be sided to match the rest of the house. But then below the garage and wrapping around is going to be the foundation.
Correct. We're not as easily able to step the wall down where the garage is, just because we have a floor slab inside.
Right.
So construction detailing doesn't really make as much sense. And actually, this will be pretty obscured by being below the deck also.
Mm-hmm.
In that area. But correct on the remainder of it, similar to the Sherman's house, we've stepped the foundation walls down to try to provide as much siding as possible. And if it's something the board would like us to consider on the side elevation, like we did with Sherman's, it may be possible to take a portion of this wall and also side that as well.
Well, I don't know if I do that, because you're getting awfully close to grade there, but let's say further to the left.
Has as much benefit as it did on the Sherman's, but
yeah.
We could
But like let's say you you had a portion where it steps down. I would think, especially if you're going to have siding, so then are you going to frame out the back porch area? Go to the back elevation. Yeah, that sided area, that's all wood frame. It's not going to be block or concrete foundation. Am I correct?
Step that foundation down and frame a wall across the entire face.
So I think that I think it'll improve, especially on the left side, if you did do a step down, because it'll help tie the side elevation with the back elevation by continuing the siding, to some extent.
So we're thinking this area here to whatever extent practical.
Well, or you can go with 2 steps. I mean, ultimately it becomes a question of whether or not that construction is concrete block or concrete, or whether it's wood frame.
These foundations will be poured, but we can easily form in the steps and have that terrace down.
And then basically you have a cripple wall, which goes up to the first floor level.
I think that that's not really something that jumps out to me very much as something that needs to be corrected, but I think maybe when I'm back in the village, I'll take a kind of a closer look at the Sherman's and how that wraps around, and just to kind of get an idea of what, is a better way of doing it. We have plenty of houses, excuse me, we have plenty of houses where, our whole village is hills. So there's plenty of half stories and stories of block work supporting a wood frame house, and it just, everyone deals with it in different ways. So
the Sherman's, it was much more prevalent and important of a facade because it was your main perspective that you view it from 9, and you'd see it from the park. So there it was actually a pretty important thing to do, to try to improve that. But here, maybe not as much. So
well, here I think the northwest elevation is probably the more important one, because that's the more exposed elevation. The other side, the southeast, you've got multiple shapes. The garage is another volume that sort of plays into it, so it's not as critical there as it is on the northwest elevation.
Yeah, and I think the other big difference too about the Sherman's house is that it was the primary facade of their house is sort of a corner, so you're looking at the back and the park side at the same time, whereas because of the location of this, you're probably going to be seeing the facades more isolated from each other, the elevations more isolated from each other, slightly, so.
And I walked by the Sherman residence today. It's looking really, really nice, so.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. I guess the question I would have is that when do you think you'll be ready for to submit an application on this building?
Well, the application, as far as the HDRB application,
yeah,
we've submitted it with the initial package, so that should already be in and processed.
Well, no, I mean, you know, when do you want to? At some point, we're going to have a public hearing, and so, do you want to do a public hearing for both buildings? You want to break them up? How do you want to proceed with that?
We'd like to proceed with them both simultaneously.
Okay.
I think it makes sense if we're discussing both of the houses in relationship to the overall composition to have that process, you know, continue through for both on the same time frame. Obviously, one will get built before the other, and crews will move from one to the next once we get the construction. But we'd like to keep them moving through the process together. And at this point, if the board deems appropriate, I guess we'd like the request to go to public hearing as soon as we're able to.
All right. Well, then let's take a look at lot 2.
Lot 2 at 63 Paulding essentially is the original composition with some very minor changes. The dual gables with the projecting trim with the diamond accents is unaltered and retained. Similar type of porch composition. Again, garage with the carriage house style reverse gable, also retained. We made an alteration to the mudroom where we proposed to eliminate the additional entrance door. We've done that quite often on larger homes where it's a little bit more warranted, where you have more travel distance between the front door and the garage. But you know, these are fairly compact homes. I'd almost be a little bit more concerned that the second door might read more like almost like a 2-family then, and it would make sense to have as an additional mudroom door. So we did propose to change that to a window. Otherwise, it's the same 4/1 type of windows, and I think we've generally retained the overall composition.
Could we see again all 3 houses on a streetscape?
Certainly.
Thank you.
And is are the 3 lots level? I mean, I know that you're showing them here on a forced line, but how level are the 3 lots? Are they pretty in line?
So lot 2 and lot 1, the finished floor elevations will actually be the same elevation. I can tell you how they relate to the Shermans here. Just one second, I'll pull up their site plan.
I was just curious about the ridge lines and if there would be some, you know, I mean, I think ultimately, I think what everyone is trying to achieve is there to the houses to kind of speak to one another, but also look like they were, you know, they kind of live in their own universe.
Just as a double check, the finished floor on Sherman's is 159. The finished floor on these 2 lots is 160. So we're actually fairly level. So
that's
really talking
a foot
about
difference over that entire thing is really negligible.
Yeah,
you notice that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious how they were going to fall in line. I think that the you know, putting the double gable in the center, the kind of more grand design is you know, the best way to be able to use that style, but make it seem a little bit more precious and unique.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can we go back to lot 2 and start going around the building and seeing the other?
Site plan remains unchanged. Floor plans as originally proposed. Front elevation again. And then side elevations and whatever, I suppose whatever improvements we make to lot 1 on the side, maybe those carry over to this lot as well.
Yeah.
So if we do, you know, extend these windows further down and add windows to that bedroom and possibly eliminate the stair window, you know, those changes probably would make sense to treat both equally.
Right. Right. How about the back?
The rear, again, same composition, but reversed. So again, this one also proposes to have the projecting grand box bay anchoring the deck that again extends the remainder of the facade, wraps around to a deeper area for entertaining by the garage. Very similar composition.
Directly under the garage and under the deck, what we're looking at would be the foundation wall of the garage.
It would be. So if you were standing directly behind the house at that elevation, which I'm not sure if anybody will ever perceive it from there or not, but above that red line would be exposed foundation. Below that red line, the ground will be sloping down.
All right, let's go to the side elevation again.
And that,
okay, I see. Yeah,
we were just looking at that area right there.
Yeah.
And so that deck projects pretty deep at that point.
And so, Al, I think the other thing to keep in mind with this is that because of the way that the garages, the walls of the garages face each other, so looking from above, you know, these two buildings are going to kind of make a little bit of a U shape between their the garages coming together. So the two decks are basically going to be facing each other. Is that right, Joe?
Correct.
The deep decks.
Correct.
So I think that a lot of this stuff that we were talking about with the foundation lines, you're almost, the house 61 is going to obscure a lot of 63 when you're looking at those kind of things, and vice versa.
Yeah, well, I think that the only elevation where the step downs with the cripple wall really are the elevations that are you know, on the other side, the southeast elevation, and I think it was the northwest elevation on lot 1, where it's really it's a lot more visible, because I agree.
Southeast would be the most visible from the park, and the northeast on lot 1 would be you know, that public pathway into the backside of Butterfield. So
that makes sense.
Yep.
One other item that's probably worth noting, just so we can make sure we're in a potential agreement with it, is the original had these tapered large Doric style columns, which to me seemed a bit out of character with the overall composition, you know, and that this type of more Victorian style house would probably be better suited with, you know, a trimmed out chamfered edge type column, similar to the house across the street. The tapered Doric columns just didn't really seem to me to be a good fit. So I don't know if the board had a strong preference with those.
Yeah, I think that was an acute observation. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought that the tapered ones was a rendering mistake on as you were scrolling between the two of them, because they do kind of look a little funny on that building. They always,
let's chalk it up to that.
Yeah, they always look fake to me. I don't know why. It
looks like a bank.
Yeah, it's something that no one really does ever.
They don't put that on their house.
No, I mean, if we're really going to try for a Greek revival house with a grand projected two-bay, two-story portico, maybe if it's really done well, possibly
Right.
grander scale, but not this scale house and not this style house. It just didn't feel appropriate.
Yeah, if you're gonna have 16 of them, then it makes sense. But if you're only gonna have 3,
oh please no.
That'll be the next project.
I guess a question I have is how big is the ones that you do have? I mean, what is the size? What are the sizes of them? Yeah.
So we are portraying them a little bit more substantial than the other two houses to help differentiate because there were larger columns. We don't have to do that, but let me just make sure we did update that dimension here. What we basically have are wrapped 6x6s. And let me see what we have here. I'm going to open this up in CAD. We can add some dimensions on the final details. So actually, what we have on Sherman's house and on lot 1 are 6x6s wrapped to 7.5 inches. And then on this house, we're showing them a little bit wider, 10.5, so padded out a little bit further. We can update the detail to reflect that if that's in fact what we want to do. So to see that, the overall composition, I don't know if it's that noticeable really that they're a little bit wider.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would be willing to accept, the columns being the same size as the other two, but it really, to me, it's, it doesn't make that much difference.
They don't strike me as out of scale. And also because I think the windows are ganged, you kind of have a little bit more breathing room on that facade.
We do, which is why we might be able to do that here versus the others, a little more slender columns, especially lot 1 where we have the double columns flanking either side of the entryway. Mm-hmm. Need to be thinner here. I think a little more substance works.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole lot to do that, to build them bigger, build them smaller. But.
And could you actually just flip to the floor plan for this one? I just want to see the depth of the mudroom. So there is quite a separation between the garage, the mudroom, and then the main volume.
There is. What we tried to do is tuck a powder room off of the main living spaces and off of that mudroom. It's convenient for daily living. As you come in the house, it's right there. And then it also helps to provide a little bit of separation from the living spaces, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Directly transitions into the kitchen, which is a pretty open floor plan, like a great room.
But the porch roof doesn't, so the mudroom window is not under the porch. The porch is just the width of those 3 columns.
Correct.
All right. Okay.
How about the materials? Is it going to be pretty much the same as the Shermans?
It is. So, as mentioned last meeting, cedar siding, all wood exterior. The only proposed, similar shingles, similar fixtures, similar doors as far as the materials are concerned, solid wood for the front entry, just a different style. Insulated steel for the garage door, just a different style. And then on the windows, proposing still a clad wood, but actually an upgrade. So rather than the Geldwin, which were vinyl clad, a Marvin, which is aluminum clad, and actually provides a few more grill options, which I know came up in discussion in the first meeting. And Sean, I know you mentioned that you're actually pretty content with how the Shermans turned out with the darker color. But with these Marvins, we do have the option to have a little bit thicker profile if we want it, whereas Geldwin was a little bit more limited. So we are proposing a Marvin window instead of Geldwin.
And those were all submitted with the original application, Al.
All right.
They are happy to scroll through if you'd like. Just to recap.
No. I guess the question really is whether or not we can go ahead and schedule a public hearing at this particular point.
I think that would be good if we could. We've been wanting to schedule. We've been wanting to have at least 3 weeks notice during this quarantine era, which would put us on the 17th. We have our regularly scheduled meeting on the 10th and the 24th. So it would be to the board's best interest, if it's not a problem with you, Joe, if we were to have the public hearing on the 24th, which would also give you the opportunity to come back on the 10th if you did want to talk about the windows on that other facade or anything like that. How's that sound?
Is the board not holding a meeting on the 17th?
No, we meet on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays.
So if that's the earliest opportunity, then we're happy to take that, obviously. And then if the board thinks it's worthwhile to, hey, what we could do is submit the revised changes in advance of the 10th. And if the board thinks it's worthwhile to appear and meet just to review and better confirm, the state of the design at the 10th, if that's something that would be beneficial, we'd be open to that as well. If we don't think it's necessary, then we're happy to take that first available public meeting.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Do I have a motion to hold a public hearing for these two buildings on the 24th of March?
I will move to schedule a public hearing for the 24th of March.
I will second.
All in favor say aye.
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 So I think then what we'll do is how much time would you like, Joe, to kind of take a look at those windows?
Well,
we need that much. We can probably turn this around to the board. Let's say if the 10th meeting, if we had them to you in advance of Friday the 5th, maybe make a determination on whether or not the 10th is needed, or actually you need 3 weeks notice, right?
Well,
right.
Yeah, it's a matter of just when we would say that the materials will be ready for review. And it also has to do with the printing dates of the paper. So I think that if we were to get the sign up, and if we were able to alert the neighbors, if we actually ran our newspaper ads, they would actually run on the 17th and the 19th. That's when we would post it on the website as soon as it's scheduled. We will run one ad in each of the papers, and they'll be on the 17th and the 19th. And so I guess ultimately, Al, tell me if you disagree. I think as long as the materials are available on our website by the 12th, that would be when we could tell people they'll be available.
I think the 12th gives everybody more than ample opportunity, because we also need a set of printed drawings that Jeff would have in case somebody wants to come into the office to view them because they don't have access to the computer or who, what, and where.
Right. And I think that I think the issues that people are going to be interested in obviously are the size of the buildings and the materials that are being used and the sort of the kind of bigger picture issues. I don't know if the specific window arrangement on one facade of each of the two is going to be a big issue for people to look into. So I think if we finalize those things on the 10th, then that's not going to negate people's ability to make it.
Agreed. I mean, that gives people essentially a week and a half to inform themselves.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah. All right.
So, Joe, why don't we then? So you and I and Jeff will connect on this, and he and I can work on the posting itself, and we'll just state in the posting that all of the drawings will be available to view in Village Hall and on the website as of the 12th, 3/12.
And likely we can get these to you much sooner than that. These are pretty simple adjustments. So easily at some point next week. And if there's a date that you want these by, just let me know. We'll make sure you have it.
Yeah. The thing is that please take a look at where you want the windows and the siding and so on, and resolve the issues to your satisfaction, so that, because we tossed around a couple of ideas, but ultimately you guys need to work up what you're submitting for an application. And then on the 10th, we can identify if there are any issues that we disagree with. So, I would assume that you could then have any revisions to the village office and for the website and the hard copy by that Friday. So I think that doesn't seem like there are any issues as far as materials, and basically, it's just the appearance of the two buildings.
Yeah, we also just can't give you feedback, Joe, out of session. So
that's understood.
If you send them over to us, we can tell you if there's not enough information, but we would have to give you our feedback in a session. So,
right.
but the timing
public,
also be
public forum.
Makes sense. And if you tell us that we should be on for the 10th, then I'll take it to mean that we should come back and discuss. And if you tell me that we don't need to be there at the 10th, then we'll be there at the 24th. So
sure, yeah, that's
all, without saying anything more than that, but all sounds very reasonable. We can
Joe, don't you like visiting us? I mean,
I do actually, but you keep putting me towards the back of the agenda. So
well, you'll be old business by then, so you'll be at the beginning of the agenda.
That's right. You'll be first up.
Okay, great. So then I'll connect with Jeff, and we'll get the technical details sorted. But we will see you potentially on the 10th and definitely on the 24th.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Night.
Good night.
Take care.
All right. So as far as tasks, all right. So I'm going to start working on comparing the maps. If anybody has any comments, please let me know. I do want to stick to the 2-week schedule, get them over to Arlene. And also any specifics. I'm going to work up the budget for the next fiscal year. I guess, Sean, you're going to give me a percentage.
Sure.
All right. And what we'll do is, I guess the next time you and Lloyd are talking to Kirsten, you can tell her that we're probably going to want her to submit a bill for, that base portion of the project first, sometime before May 30th.
Right. I don't ever talk to Kirsten, but I can let Lloyd know to relay that to her. Although maybe I will if it's so that he doesn't feel bogged down by the money issue.
And how are we doing as far as Chris? Andrea.
Oh, me and Hannah? We are communicating. Obviously the weather has it's kind of hampering our efforts to get out and take pictures. Where I left things off with her If she wants me around, I'm here. Obviously, she's completely capable of, you know, taking photos on her own. Obviously, we have Lloyd's. I think it was Lloyd. I actually don't know who's responsible for that amazing spreadsheet.
Lloyd did that.
That was Lloyd. Oh, it was great. So yeah, we know what we need to do. So that's kind of where things are right now.
All right. And I had, you know, that data sheet that you saw for, I forget which building that we were looking at, that Lloyd went on Chris and he found the copy of the report that was done for Dr. Fitch's report. You know, the information that he emailed to everybody after.
Oh, for 8 Stone Street.
Right. I have a blank of that that I found in one of my files.
Oh.
But one of the things that we need to do is we need to identify, we need to come up with a standard form that we're going to wind up using. And it's not that critical right now. We're probably better off just getting everybody up on Chris.
Yeah, start with the photos and flesh it out from there. Just kind of, I think.
Well, yeah, here's the other thing. Just last question and we can wrap up. The non-contributing, you know, because in our district we have contributing and non-contributing. So is there going to be any problem putting non-contributing buildings up on Chris?
No.
Okay.
It's whatever we want to put up.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we adjourn, I just want to make sure, because I'm editing the minutes, Cold Spring, the Cold Spring account, is that Michael? That's Michael, right?
That's Michael.
That's Michael, yeah. He's
okay,
here.
just double checking so I, you know, have that in my notes. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Oh, hi, Michael. I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Do you have, Michael, do you have all of the, who made the motions, who seconded and stuff like that? Okay.
Great.
Great. Good
night. Good night, everyone.